Good evening, everybody. This is my discussion video 3, chapters 14 and 15, and 17 and 18. So in chapter 14, it was a lot about the rehearsal schedule. I always have a rehearsal schedule that I update each time, usually as a Google Doc. I try to post it before all my shows just so kids have an idea of what it's going to look like, how many weeks we're going to have, what their expectations are going to be. Of course, it changes frequently, so we print new ones and post them and always keep them up to date. But I really like the idea of adding in some memorization timelines. I always give an off-book date, but the idea of breaking it into smaller chunks for those kids who have a hard time managing long weeks of what that looks like, I really love that. So I went back into my schedule and I plugged in a couple scenes that they needed to have memorized so that every time we go over it, that just gets stronger. So I love that idea. And then the whole section on being on time. I struggle with my kids getting there on time. I was taught to be the first one there, the last to leave. And if you're on time, you're already late. And so for kids to kind of be wandering in 2, 3 minutes, 5, 10 minutes late can be really stressful. So I think the idea of having the warm-up or the improv exercise or some kind of fun activity that may not want to miss might help get some of those kids there on time. And then, of course, addressing it if it becomes habitual. But I liked having some buffer time instead of just jumping in right away, maybe having some 10, 15-minute things that provide some fun activities for kids to do and maybe get them there a little faster. Then chapter 15, I didn't realize there was actually a name for, that motivation that comes from doing the action, right? Running makes you want to go exercise, or laughing makes you feel a little more happy. So the James Lang theory was kind of new to me. I pick up motivation from lots of different things, watching YouTubers clean the house, right? And then I'm like more motivated to do that thing. So it makes a lot of sense. But I liked the idea of having kids use that more for some improv or warm-ups. And just trying different scenes with different moods or different emotions sounds like a lot of fun. So I liked that. The part on criticism. So as a classroom teacher, we have a lot of training on giving specific, honest, clear feedback. And so not just saying like, good job, or that was well done, but what specifically they did that was well done or that you thought was good. So I liked reading that feedback could be tied back to the goals that they're creating, and then adjusting those goals as the time goes on. In chapter 17 and 18 with the blocking, I'm currently watching our productions at our local community theater. And so I was kind of watching them through a different lens the last several nights. It's not my production. And so I was thinking about how I would give honest critiques and feedback to our current production committee. And there were times in scenes where I could find myself going, oh, look, there's that triangle. Those were neat levels. Or I wish it would have had this kind of blocking to make this a little more powerful. I like the idea of like that left to right or right to left. I found myself picking out that types of things in their blocking. And then just the different compositions that they would do versus how I would have maybe blocked the scene. So that was really neat because it was immediate and it's happening right now, current. So I could take what I'm learning in this book and like apply it right now. I think the visuals are going to be really key for my students. And so in a lot of the scripts that we use, there are visuals already in there of like the stages and blocking and how they can write and mark in their books. But I reference them. I just don't think that we utilize them enough. So the idea of maybe physically marking the stage to begin for like that first week for those kids who don't know how to find their blocking, maybe too embarrassed to ask. And then posting visuals up on call boards backstage just for the first couple weeks to help them kind of gain, their compass. I know visuals are really helpful for me. So when I was reading that chapter to see the people at the different angles, that was, pretty powerful. So to think about the kids, especially those who are new, and how I could support them better with using visuals. We tend to use, myself and my assistant director, we will physically get up on the stage and give kids examples of what it looks like when we're facing each other, when we're talking, what happens when I turn around and I talk, what happens if I move back and I talk. And so maybe having some specific scenes that we work on right before we go and do the blocking so that it's fresh in their mind, I think is going to be really powerful. One thing that I thought about doing is creating small videos for my kids and then putting it into our Discord channel and our Facebook for them to access, or what we might be doing that night and having them things that they could be thinking about so when they come to rehearsal that they're a little more prepared. And then just the end of the chapter when it was talking about being flexible, how blocking ebbs and flows and being open to different ideas from your characters. And I think that's when you get the most honest style of acting with your kids and being open to listening to them and their ideas, because ultimately it's them on the stage portraying how you want the character to come through, but they have to believe it themselves. So taking some of, their ideas and working them in sounds like, something that most directors do, but I don't think we're always aware of the impact that it actually does happen. And so that's kind of my video reaction for chapters 14, 15, 17, and 18.